The story is about a man named Sasaki who starts his day by taking out the trash and is greeted by a young girl, his neighbor. He responds kindly and then heads to work on the train. At his workplace, one of his junior colleagues asked him to review a settlement report. Sasaki offered some suggestions for improvement and kindly volunteered to handle the report. His colleague was pleased with this, and it made Sasaki think that the right person was chosen for the job. While working, Sasaki overheard a conversation about a girl who had adopted a cat. He found this intriguing and watched a cat video with great interest. He thought the cat was adorable and wished he could have a pet of his own someday. Sasaki's boss assigned him more work, which was quite typical in their average-sized company with average earnings and wages. Sasaki admitted that he was barely making ends meet, but he lacked the courage to switch jobs. The job market had not been kind to him in the past. However, Sasaki found fulfillment in having a job where he felt needed and believed he was contributing to society. After work, his junior colleague invited him to dinner, but Sasaki declined, mentioning that he was low on cash for the month. His colleague kindly offered to treat him, but Sasaki took a rain check, hoping for another invitation. Later that evening, Sasaki went to a convenience store to buy dinner, but had no luck in a lottery for a free item. He returned home, and the little girl from earlier welcomed him back. Sasaki had dinner while watching cat videos, thoroughly enjoying them. One day, Sasaki visited a pet store and noticed that the cats were quite expensive. He wished he could afford to have a pet, perhaps even a dog. As he browsed, he heard a bird chirping, and it sounded like it was saying "pick me." Curious, Sasaki followed the sound and discovered a Java sparrow. He found it cute and surprisingly affordable, priced at 3,000 yen. Sasaki decided to bring the sparrow home, feeling a bit lonely with his 40th birthday approaching. Sasaki wondered about a suitable name for the sparrow. And to his surprise, the sparrow introduced itself as Pircarlo, an inhabitant of another world and a star sage. Sasaki thought this bird was quite talkative, even for its species. Despite thinking that Pircarlo was already a splendid name, Sasaki decided to name the bird Peeps. This choice didn't seem to please the bird, but Sasaki found even its displeasure cute. Sasaki couldn't believe he was having a normal conversation with a bird. He remembered what Yamada from the pet shop had said about getting Peeps accustomed to human contact and was determined to make it happen. Sasaki wanted to understand if Java sparrows were generally good at communicating, so he engaged in more conversation with Peeps. He asked Peeps about his dinner preferences, and to his surprise, the bird mentioned Kobe beef Shada brand, claiming it was the best. Sasaki couldn't believe a bird had such refined tastes. He apologized to Peeps for being unable to afford it and offered pork ribs instead. Peeps responded by suggesting that Sasaki should earn the money if he didn't have it. He shared that he had been exiled from another world and had chosen this new form of life. Peeps believed in living life as one desired, rather than trying to fit in with others. Sasaki could relate to this, given his corporate job. Peeps explained that to achieve his goals, he needed assistance from someone in this world, and he hoped Sasaki would help him accumulate riches. Sasaki tells Peeps that he'll do anything for him. Then, Peeps uses magic to create a special bond between them. He gives some of his magic powers to Sasaki and tells him they're now connected. Peeps asks Sasaki to open his cage. Even though Sasaki is confused, he decides to go along with it and opens the cage. Peeps sits on Sasaki's shoulder, which makes Sasaki feel happy. The bird says he can use his old magic powers through Sasaki's body. Next, Peeps uses a spell to take Sasaki to a different world. Sasaki is amazed to see this new place. Peeps tells him this is where he used to live before he became a bird. They're in a town called Batrium in a kingdom. The story then shifts to Sasaki at his office. His coworker is surprised to see Sasaki there so early since everyone else is late because of a train delay. He wonders if Sasaki started getting up earlier. Sasaki says no, and then his coworker asks to talk privately. In private, the coworker suggests that they start a new business together. He plans to quit his job next month and thinks having someone experienced like Sasaki would be helpful. He promises Sasaki a better deal than his current job. Sasaki asks for time to think about it, mentioning he's busy with personal stuff. His coworker is surprised when Sasaki says he just got a pet. Sasaki felt that what was happening was just as he had expected, but he wanted to clarify that he wasn't making things up. His life had taken a remarkable turn since his visit to another world, and he had a new goal in mind. Sasaki mentioned that thanks to Peeps' teleportation ability, he could now avoid crowded trains, which had made his life much more pleasant. Because of this newfound convenience, Sasaki agreed with Peeps' idea of establishing a business between the two worlds. As a result, he started buying some items to sell in the other world. Initially, he had aspirations to trade with upper-class nobles, but he realized that it might be challenging to start with them right away. So, they decided to begin by doing business with the town's local merchants first. Sasaki purchased the necessary items and even won a chocolate bar in a lottery. Upon returning home, the little girl next door welcomed him back. Hearing her stomach growling, Sasaki kindly gave her the chocolate bar, explaining that he didn't like chocolate and had won it for free. Then, he headed inside and ventured into the other world with his goods. In the other world, Sasaki visited the Herman Trading Company, which was run by the town's nobles. He asked Peeps if he should enter the company with Peeps perched on his shoulder, and Peeps informed him that Sasaki could consider him as his familiar. Sasaki successfully sold the items he had brought with him for 400 gold coins, noting that if converted, it would amount to 400 million yen. He also remarked on the high prices of crafted goods in this world. Mark, the company's president, inquired about the source of Sasaki's pens and paper. Sasaki couldn't reveal his source but made a promise not to sell those items to any other store as compensation. Sasaki continued to travel between the two worlds to conduct his business and explore the local cuisine in the other world. Peeps also provided him with lessons on magic. Sasaki attempted to learn the teleportation spell from Peeps, but he found it too complex and decided to take his time to master it gradually. One day, during a break at his office, Sasaki had some spare time and decided to practice casting spells. He recited the incantation for a fire spell and miraculously managed to invoke it successfully on his very first try. But this activates the fire alarm and Sasaki runs away from the scene. Later, he pays a visit to Viscount Muller, the noble who rules this land, and the Viscount carefully examines the goods he brought. Seeing this, Sasaki realizes that he can't simply bring anything here, and he should be more selective about his products in the future. Muller inquires if these goods are common in Sasaki's continent or considered special items accessible only to a select few, like the nobility. Sasaki explains that only a few people possess these goods, and Muller ponders if this implies that Sasaki holds a high status in his own right. He expresses his reluctance to engage in one-sided dealings with someone of equal status to a noble, and Sasaki understands the need to respond carefully. He then shares his story, stating that he is a craftsman who ended up on this continent after his ship wrecked. The goods he brought today are those he had with him, as well as new ones he crafted. Muller comprehends the situation and proposes that Sasaki sells his goods to the Herman Trading Company from now on, with the possibility of bringing some directly to him. He promises to purchase them at a premium price and grants Sasaki permission to visit his mansion whenever he pleases. Muller encourages Sasaki to inform him of anything noteworthy in town that could benefit his territory. This connection with the feudal lord helps Sasaki's trade between the two worlds run smoothly. With his sales, progress in learning magic, and management of his restaurant, Sasaki's life in the other world is becoming more comfortable. Later, while heading to his office, Sasaki attends his junior's farewell party, where they enjoy food and drinks. During the party, news reports about a random attacker on the loose, and Sasaki's junior asks him if he has considered going independent. Sasaki wonders why his junior is so insistent, and his junior mentions that Sasaki seems full of energy lately, radiating an I-can-do-it aura. Sasaki jokingly attributes it to his new bed, which allows him to sleep better. He's been staying in an inn in the other world where the beds are quite large, so his own bed at home feels cramped now. He contemplates switching between the two beds. On his way home after the party, he encounters a dangerous situation. He narrowly dodges ice shards hurled at him and witnesses a man using superpowers to attack a woman. Initially, he considers fleeing but becomes concerned for the woman's safety, suspecting that the attacker may be the one from the news. Sasaki intervenes by using an ice shard to freeze the assailant, though he doesn't want to kill him. He's unsure how to stop the spell, but the woman intervenes, turning the ice into water, and then points a gun at Sasaki. She inquires if Sasaki is a psychic and where he's from. She asks if he was the one who used the ice attack. Sasaki confirms his involvement and explains that he recently discovered these powers. The woman is astonished that she was saved by a random psychic and asks Sasaki to come with her, assuring him that she won't harm him. Sasaki wonders if they might be magicians like him and hopes to learn more from her. He requests permission to go home first and change clothes, as he'll be staying the night. Sasaki explains that he has work the following day, but the woman tells him not to worry as her organization will handle it. Later, Sasaki shares all the details with Peeps, who remarks that he can't sense any mana from the woman. Peeps suggests that she might be using a different phenomenon from magic, and speculates that their worlds might have similar phenomena but operate on entirely different principles. Sasaki realizes that this could be a groundbreaking discovery, and Peeps agrees that they should learn more from her. Sasaki invites Peeps to accompany him, and Peeps agrees. Sasaki is about to leave when his neighbor, the little girl, asks if he's going out. Sasaki confirms this, and she expresses sympathy for him being out so late. She then asks if they can talk for a moment, but Sasaki, in a hurry, suggests they chat another time. The girl agrees, and Sasaki proceeds to meet with the woman, introducing himself as Hashizaki. Sasaki, accompanied by his pet sparrow, heads to the organization with Hashizaki. During their journey, she explains to Sasaki that psychics are individuals whose powers spontaneously manifest, similar to magicians. The manifestation rate is 1 in every 100,000 people, and once the abilities appear, they don't change. These abilities vary from person to person, and while there's no record of someone manifesting additional abilities, their existing powers can grow stronger with use. Hashizaki reveals that her ability allows her to manipulate water movement and temperature, which Sasaki finds distinct from magic. Hashizaki mentions that many of these abilities are dangerous, and some psychics turn to crime. Her role is to apprehend such individuals, which surprises Sasaki. She explains that as a general rule, anyone who manifests psychic abilities must register with the country's organization for managing psychics. Sasaki admits he didn't know such an organization existed, to which Hashizaki responds that it's a national secret. They arrive at the organization's building, known as the Paranormal Phenomenon Countermeasure Bureau, and Hashizaki informs Sasaki that this will be his workplace from now on. Sasaki is taken aback by this revelation, as he hadn't anticipated joining the organization. Hashizaki mentions that she registered him a while ago and ushers him inside. Hashizaki tells Sasaki that he can expect favorable treatment, as he'll be considered a government official and receive a handsome salary. She mentions that he'll learn more during training and asks him about his powers. Sasaki, wanting to avoid combat, downplays his abilities, stating that he can only shoot icicles, which he demonstrates. Observing this, Hashizaki realizes that Sasaki can create ice from nothing, which excites her. She explains that she can manipulate water's movement and temperature but cannot create water, requiring her to carry water bottles. With Sasaki around, she would no longer have to worry about that and could undertake more perilous missions. Sasaki thinks she might be a workaholic and suspects she's already planning his involvement in her next mission. He expresses a preference for safe tasks aligned with his skills. Hashizaki mentions that a psychic's paycheck has no limit, and they earn more the harder they work. Sasaki finds himself in a room at the bureau and wishes he could sleep. However, he needs to stock up and visit the other world. He also has to pay French and decides not to use his magic here to avoid surveillance. He takes a walk with Peeps, who informs him that they are being followed. Sasaki anticipated this and knows that stocking up is impossible. He wants to explain his situation to everyone at the bureau and hopes they can help. Peeps suggests that several hours in the other world will only be a few minutes here, so Sasaki should go there under the pretext of using the restroom. Sasaki teleports to the other world from a convenience store restroom, informs Mark about needing more time for their next deal, and pays French's wages. The next morning, someone rings Sasaki's doorbell at 6 a.m. It turns out to be Hashizaki, who tells him it's time for work. Sasaki hesitates, wanting to report to someone higher up and verify if this is a legitimate workplace. Hashizaki expresses annoyance with his hesitation and suggests they stop by the bureau on the way. She asks him to get dressed. The section chief of Hashizaki's department, Akutsu, arrives and comments on Hashizaki's enthusiasm for work but advises her not to involve Sasaki without permission. Akutsu introduces himself as Sasaki's immediate superior and gives Sasaki a new phone. He explains that they will contact him using this phone and asks him to carry it at all times for emergencies. Sasaki isn't too happy about having to carry the phone around, and he considers leaving it in the other world to avoid being tracked. Akutsu, his superior, then leaves, telling Sasaki to contact him if needed. The scene shifts to Sasaki undergoing a medical examination at the bureau and learning more about the agency. He discovers that the bureau is a secret government ministry, and employees must keep its existence hidden. They are officially considered police sergeants but can't reveal their true roles to outsiders. Sasaki realizes this explains why Hashizaki carries a gun and asks about her, suspecting he might be partnered with her. People tell him she can be troublesome. Sasaki finishes his training and receives an allowance of 1 million yen for job preparations. He decides to use this money to stock up and returns home, where he meets the little girl from earlier. She gives him cookies as thanks for the chocolate and asks if the woman with him is his girlfriend. Sasaki clarifies that she's his superior, and the girl is surprised she looks so young. Afterward, Sasaki hears Peeps making noise and takes him for a walk. Peeps informs him that someone bugged his place while he was out. Sasaki asks if they saw him checking the internet, but Peeps says no. Sasaki then disables the camera and microphone at his house. Akutsu calls and mentions Sasaki's talent, but Sasaki asks him not to spy on him again, or it will affect his cooperation. Akutsu apologizes, explaining it was a test to see how Sasaki would react. He believes Sasaki's honesty and skills are valuable for managing psychics. Sasaki understands but remains cautious of Akutsu. As Sasaki contemplates his situation, Peeps wonders if he'll stock up on supplies that night. Sasaki decides to do it another time and realizes his dream of a relaxing life in another world is still distant. Meanwhile, Akatsu sees potential in Sasaki's skills for the organization. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.